Here, just a second. Okay, so we are. Good call. Welcome to the Greater Hilltop Area Commission meeting, our full commission meeting for the month of July. Tonight is July 11th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. We're here at the Hilltop branch of the Columbus Metropolitan Library. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with a roll call of commissioners that are present at the meeting tonight.
Okay. Chair Fagan.
Here.
Chair Beats Fry.
Here.
Chair Beats Fry. Treasurer Paxton. Here. Secretary Archer is present. And Commissioners Moore. Present. Davis.
Here.
Kepler.
Here.
Friedner.
Here.
Keebley.
Here.
Stryker. Here. Maddox. Here. Paxton. Here. Dallas. Here. Lenny.
Here.
And absent is Commissioner Klein. Did I miss anyone else?
Commissioner White.
White. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Josh, can you go to the next slide? Just for anybody that's not attended one of these meetings, this is the purpose and function of area commissions comes out of our Columbus City Code. And if you want to Google that number, you can find these words here that area commissions are established to afford additional voluntary citizen participation in decision-making in an advisory capacity and to facilitate communication, understanding, and cooperation between neighborhood groups, city officials, and developers. So more information can be found at that website there. There are 21 area commissions across the city of Columbus. If you go to Google the Greater Hilltop Area Commission, you'll find the website of all the area commissions. If you go to our link, you'll be able to see at the left-hand side there. You can link on many other area commissions if you didn't know about what the role or function of this commission is. So I'm going to ask if I've passed around the agenda. We'll show it up here visually here in a second. Are there any calls for additions, deletions of any agenda items to what you're currently looking at? Not hearing it? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and approve this agenda for this evening. Talking about approval, let's talk about the minutes of our last meeting. Our secretary sent those out just mere moments after the last meeting for everybody to take a look at. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from our June meeting.
Yes.
You'll second that? Any discussion, any additions, any edits, any? Hearing none, everybody in favor of approving? Anybody that's opposed? Great. We have representatives from the city of Columbus that will come and do staff reports for us. They can't always make it because of their duties. We typically ask Sergeant Brophy to come. I don't see that Sergeant Brophy's here tonight. So we'll just move on to, typically we have our zone attorney here tonight, but he can't make it. He's at another area commission meeting tonight. Normally we have this the first Tuesday of the month. We moved it to this Tuesday, which is the second, which then caused some conflicts. His name is Zach Gwynn. He's normally here, available to give us a report and to field any questions. If you ever want to talk to our zone attorney, he typically tries to be at this meeting on a monthly basis. So moving on to, I'm keeping this flying through there. We're going to click right through. So the Department of, or our Division of Community Engagement with City Council, Avery Townsend, are you here tonight? I haven't seen her yet. She's at the other area commission. There's a conflict. We may be able to engage with her later on tonight. Olabisi is here tonight from the Departments of Neighborhoods. Olabisi, thank you for being here. I know that can be a conflict for you tonight also. So you're probably going to stay with us and then get out of here, right? You are? Okay, well, welcome. The mic is up there. Just flip that thing on and it'll be going to work.
Testing. There we go.
Perfect.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I don't have too many announcements tonight. On July 29th, the next area commission training is scheduled. That will be on strategic planning for area commissions. That's going to be hosted by Sharon Ware. That's going to be at 10 a.m. via WebEx. So please look out in your email boxes within the next week or so to register for that. I know that this we got it. Oh, you got them?
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. So please register as soon as you can. Let's see. Glenwood Rec the Glenwood Rec Center's new pool opened this afternoon. So I was able to attend the ribbon cutting for that. So that's an awesome new resource for the community. So if any of you have an opportunity, please check it out. There's anything else? I know that it was set to be on new business, but I did want to mention that I do have updates concerning contracting for your note-taking process, but I will save that for when you discuss new business. Final thing, Brixham Road, I received a notification earlier this week that there would be some water line improvements, a water line improvement project going on that street and some of the adjacent streets. Those within the immediate vicinity have already been notified, but that is a project that's set to begin later this month and it'll last throughout 2025. So, you know, something to note for this neighborhood. Just to be aware of that there may be construction going on.
Can you just repeat that road?
Brixham. Sorry, I can't pronounce it well.
Is it BRIXHAN?
BRIXHAN.
Sorry, I know there's a bit of feedback. Sorry about that. Sure. Can you guys hear me better? Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I will include this in this week's Westside Bulletins. We were on a bit of a pause for sending those out, but we are back in business. So please expect those in your inbox during the week. I do have a couple of announcements from Avery on her behalf. So Councilwoman Favors hosting the Housing for All Town Hall event tomorrow. That will be at Mitchell Hall's Crane Room. That's at 250 Cleveland Avenue, and that's set to begin at 5 p.m. And then free gun lock boxes are available at the fire station, so then you can pick one up from there. That is all I have from her. So any questions from me? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for your report. Thank you for your report. I'm gonna take a little curve. I forgot with the agenda this evening. On the back, there was a zoning application that we were prepared to hear tonight, but the applicant's not gonna be able to come. So just a change to the agenda, when we get to the zoning committee, typically we would hear any applications on the schedule at that time, then they're not gonna be able to make it tonight. So all right, Nick Plouk from he's a neighborhood program specialist with the city of Columbus. He's always here every month to provide us with an update on the Envision Hilltop plan and its implementation. Take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. I'll be very brief. We have a couple of presentations tonight that are called out specifically in the Envision Hilltop Community Plan. You got your North Cleveland Avenue roadway improvements, as well as the Mid-Ohio Farm on the Hilltop project. So you'll hear from them. So I'll try to leave as much space for them to present as possible. Glenwood Community Pool open today. Another outcome of the Envision Hilltop Community Plan. So just want to call those specific projects out. Nothing too much to update today. One thing I do want to kind of highlight and call out, I've been working to just kind of clean up the envisionhilltop.org website. We've got a couple of things I've been working on coming. Hopefully we'll be able to share that out in the next couple of months, like a implementation map that kind of shares information about things happening relative to the plan, gives folks an opportunity to kind of see what's been going on and kind of plug into those things, give feedback on what has been happening, what they're expecting to happen, and ways to kind of get involved and get engaged. So right now, just cleaning it up, making sure it's a landing page and is active and has information that is current. And then we're going to come on that soon. So that's all for me. Happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
The plan that is uploaded to the website, is that being swapped out to match the printed plan? They're slightly different now.
Yes. I will make sure it is. There were updates like on that drop down that were incorrect. So I spent time auditing that, making sure those are all current and accurate, and then same to the uploaded.
Thank you for your update. Thank you for bringing the presentations we're going to hear later. Thank you for giving up so many of your Saturdays to be here on the west side recently to talk about the Envision Hilltop plan. So thank you, Nick. That unless Avery has come in with Avery reports came through you, so we have no other City of Columbus staff reports. So typically at the end of the meeting, we just open it up for general announcements. So we've moved that up to the 6:50 time slot. So we start with commissioners. Are there any announcements that you would like to make at this time?
No, you go first. Two announcements. One, the third annual Hilltop versus Franklinton intra-neighborhood softball game is scheduled for September the 9th at 10 a.m. We are currently in the process of choosing which Hilltop organization will be playing for this year. That survey is live on our Facebook page. Please do, if you have a moment, complete that. If you'd like to sign up to play, you can do that in the same survey. And I just wanted to quickly shout out that August the 8th, we are having a special election. The deadline to register to vote was yesterday, but if you are registered to vote, please make a plan to vote. Voting early. Early voting is open as of today at the Board of Elections or via mail.
Thank you.
A Step in the Right Direction will be hosting our 4th annual Back to School Bash, which is targeted for the west side and the Greater Hilltop area. So about 80% of the youth and the families that come out are from the Greater Hilltop area. So I share that to share the word with your neighbors, your friends. We'll have about 500 book bags full of school supplies to give away to the Greater Hilltop and west side area, along with, bounce houses like DJs, along with other community partners that offer free resources to our demographic. You can follow us on Facebook. We have all of that. And then if you want to get involved or donate any school supplies, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Thank you. I like to make this announcement that I'm representing or as part of the advisory committee for the Zone in Columbus project. It's happening here in Columbus. We've been having monthly meetings. Our next meeting is August 2nd. If anybody would ever want to have a conversation with me as a representative of that advisory committee, open to doing that at any time. If you have never heard about that, it's an opportunity over a 3-year period of time to kind of revamp the zoning ordinances that are here in Columbus that are very, decades old. And as the city looks to continue to grow and thrive, are there opportunities to look at zoning in a way? Right now, the project's looking at main corridors, which include West Broad Street. And so just want to continue to be a voice for that. Part of the role of the committee is to take input back there and then do the same. So we've had regular presentations at this meeting about the Zone in Columbus process. We are going to be launching some local community conversations, and I've been a big voice to say we need to have multiple conversations across the Greater Hilltop. It needs to be in various neighborhoods, various places. I've been a big voice for that and will continue to do so. So that's my announcement. Thanks. Anybody else, any other commissioner? Right. Anybody attending tonight that would like to make an announcement? Lucy.
Sorry, so just remember this. So some of you may be aware that the Hilliard Food Pantry recently suffered a fire and their warehouse was damaged. They're currently looking for organizations that are interested in having a type of freezer or refrigerator space for them to store food, and they're also looking for food donations as well for kids in that area. So I know they're a little to the west and to the northwest, but still west side. So I wanted to open that up if you know of any organizations or if you represent an organization yourself that will be willing to help. Contact me if you know.
Thank you, Elisa. Any other announcements? Yeah, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley. I'm the chair of the Envision Hilltop Subcommittee. Can you hear me?
No.
That's good work. Maybe. Oh, now it's working. Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the chair of the Envision Hilltop Home Subcommittee, and we have a canvas scheduled for next Friday at 10 a.m. So it's Friday the 21st. We're going to be canvassing the Hilltop area. We're meeting at 2374 West Broad at 10 a.m. We'll probably be out for about an hour. Anyone is welcome to join us. We'll be in groups passing out door hangers. We have door hangers from GHAC. for Hilltop USA, and then also for predatory buyer beware. So see me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Great, so you're always welcome to come to these meetings with any announcements. We also have a method to put on, some information on our Facebook page and different things like that. So, make sure that if you go to our website, there's an opportunity to connect with any commissioner here. And you'll be hearing later on from our Community Relations Committee, if there's ever an opportunity to share information across at least the people that view these streaming videos or log into Facebook pages, things like that. There's always an opportunity to do that. Okay. So let's move on to presentations. 6:55 with Blueprint Columbus. Tiffany Kahn is here tonight. Tiffany, because I didn't get a chance to shake Tiffany's hand. So Tiffany was going to be here to talk about Blueprint Columbus. It was just a small presentation. She sent me some slides. We'll see if she comes. We can schedule that later. Has anybody heard from her?
So far at Summer Jam.
Yeah. We confirmed a couple times over email. So she even sent me slides, like I said. So maybe something happened. You know what? Why don't we go ahead and Josh, do you mind? There's a slide that she just basically wanted to make an announcement about. I think she'd be all right with it. The next one, the Palmetto Westgate construction kickoff. There's an event on July 18th at Westgate Park from 6 to 8. It's called Burgers, Brats, and Blueprint. And so it's kind of going over the previous slide, which was where some of the Blueprint Columbus work is going to actually begin in the Westgate area. If you go back to that previous slide, I can't speak at length to that, but that's the area where Blueprint's going to start in the Westgate area. So she wanted me to make this announcement, or she was going to make the announcement and see if anybody had any brief questions. We'll table those. If anybody has any questions, I can get them commented to her, or her name is on the agenda. Tiffany Kahn. She's the outreach coordinator with the City of Columbus Department of Utilities. All right, let's move on to our presentation from John Tetzloff. He's the manager here at the Hilltop branch of the Columbus Metropolitan Library. John saved us this evening, by the way. I did not book this room. I did not book this room like I should have. And this man saved the day. So we were gonna have everybody here waiting outside in the parking lot. We were just, I don't know, go over to the softball field or something. But this man saved the day. So really appreciate you, John, more than you know. Lesson to all of us. If we move a meeting, let's get on the books. So John, you can take it away.
It was helped quite a bit by somebody not showing up. So everything worked out.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us a few minutes here to talk about the library. We wanted to, we're actually going out to a lot of area commissions, city councils in Franklin County. And there are kind of two reasons. One is to talk about what you may have heard of. This is our 150th anniversary. So it's a big year for us and we've got a lot going on. So I wanted to talk about that. It's also, we're going on being open 2 years at this site. So I thought it'd be a good time to give a little bit of an update to the area commission on that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's going and how our services are evolving here at the library. So yes, 150 years. If you think back, our first library, which opened in City Hall, opened just 8 years after the Civil War. So that we have been around for a long time. Of course, at that time it was just a room, and we've expanded considerably over the years. By 1907, funding was secured to actually build a standalone library, which is our main library downtown, which I'm sure all you've seen. Demand for library services continued to grow, and residents began asking for library locations closer to home in the neighborhoods. The first Hilltop branch was actually one of four branches, one of the first four branches that we built. And the first one, does anybody know where the first one was?
It was on Hague, where Walgreens is now.
Walgreens, right up there. The second one was just down on Broad Street, 2955 Broad Street. And then we moved to this site in 1996, opened a branch and did a major rebuild a couple years ago. So we've been in this community for quite a long time. is that, almost 100 years. So that's a little bit of a background. So I want to talk about the new branch. The new branch, like I said, has been open going on 2 years in September. As you may or may not know, the building was designed to be a traditional library with a great collection of books, public computers, kind of some of the things you would expect. We have a children's area and a school help area. But we also we're designed to be a community hub for services and learning opportunities for the community. That was the big change. And if you were in the previous meeting room that we had at the old branch, we had one little meeting room. And now we have 4 meeting rooms, we have conference rooms, we have a learning lab, we have a children's programming space, we have study rooms. So the point of the building was really to create spaces where the community could gather, and also where partners could come to the branch, deliver services, and provide learning opportunities for customers. So that's what we've done. And I wanted to report that we currently offer 14 regular services just through partnerships. So we're trying to leverage this public space and provide opportunities for the community. That includes computer training, job help, career help, financial counseling just started this week. We offer legal aid. We have ESL classes, we have GED classes, and we provide access to various social workers throughout the week. So those programs have been very popular and I think very important for serving this community and helping the community to really build its skills and build its foundation. We've also added a beautiful new children's area down at the end of the building at the north end, and we provide early literacy programs such as traditional story times, and our ready for kindergarten classes. We have targeted reading help for kids K through 3rd grade, and general academic help for children of all ages. And then for teens, we offer a new program called Youth Media, where kids get access to the latest technologies to channel their creativity and build skills for successful lives down the road. So that's kind of what we've tried to do, is we've tried to become a hub of services and learning in addition to traditional services the libraries offer. So I'm going to pause there to see if anybody has any questions about what we're doing out of the branch. Yeah.
You mentioned the latest technologies. What is that?
Well, first of all, you hire a young kid who knows all that stuff. And I wish he was here to answer that, but we have things like kids.
Excuse me, can you repeat the question? Because we didn't hear it. What was the question?
So the question was, what does our Teen U Media program consist of? What kind of technology? We have kids can compose music electronically. They can draw, so they can create art electronically. They can create comic books. Let's see, what else? Malik, help me here.
Cameras,
Cameras, yeah, digital cameras.
video editing.
Video editing, that's a good one.
Anything like coding? Not yet.
That I'm not quite sure. I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, is this like the latest technologies? How do you decide what the latest technologies will be? Is it like an organization that could come to you and say, hey, you can offer this? Or
You should tell them what
I don't know the answer to that, but I assume that we have, our youth and services department downtown had a process of determining what would be included in U Media, and I'm sure we're, keeping that updated. We have a whole separate staff that work on that kind of thing, and it's not my forte. Kids love it, I know that. Any other questions about our current services?
when you mentioned the targeted reading ages, what does that mean exactly?
So the question is, what does targeted reading help for kids mean? You may be familiar that there's a 3rd grade reading guarantee and a test that goes along with that in our schools, and kids have to pass that test to move on to fourth grade. That's been a challenge for some of the schools around the state, but in particular, some of our schools on the hilltop have struggled with that. So this program is targeted to help parents with kids K through third grade who are having trouble reading. So the kids come in, they read to us for 15 minutes and we coach them. And we give advice to the parents, we think here's kind of the level where your child is reading. Here's what you can do to help move them along. Here's some books that are appropriate for that level, because it's actually kind of tricky to pick out the right level book for a child, particularly if a child is struggling. So that's kind of what we do.
Okay, and then did you get a lot of people participating in this?
That's probably our most popular program.
Okay.
Yeah, we struggle to have enough staff readers or volunteer readers to meet the demand. Not so much in the summer, but during the school year. Yeah.
You mentioned that there are social workers available. Do you have harm reduction supplies here?
What would that be?
Narcan?
Oh, yeah. We have Narcan. Unfortunately, we've used it a few times. Our social workers typically carry that. We also have a group that comes in called Safer Station. And they they provide those kinds of products to anybody who needs them. They come in once a week. Yeah. Good questions.
So John, if I'm a parent and I want to figure out what the calendar is and the schedule, what's the best way to do that?
We have a youth services calendar and we have an adult services calendar, and they're available at the front desk. You can also access all of our programs online through our website. Just narrow the search to Hilltop and you can see all the programs we have. I see my time is up.
Yeah, you've done really well with that.
I'm gonna send a few, well, no, if you saw this, you wouldn't think so. I didn't get through it all, but I'll send you some more information. There's upcoming programs I'd like to just make you aware of.
Nice.
So I'll send that back out to the area commission. And a quick plug for a big event this weekend down in Maine. We have 135 authors coming to a book fair. And it's gonna be a raucous time, as raucous a time as you can have in a library. Because there are gonna be a lot of people, a lot of authors, and a lot of books. Thank you for
Saturday and Sunday,
Yes.
ruckus.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. I'm sorry. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
All right, so we're up to the Mid Ohio farm on the Hilltop update. Audrey Beam, Senior Project Manager, and Tim White, Director of Governmental Advocacy. I think we're both here from the Mid Ohio Food Collective. So take it away. You need any help? Let us know.
You have both those?
Yeah.
Everyone can hear me okay?
A little bit closer would help, but
Okay.
that's good. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, good evening. Thank you for letting us take a few minutes this evening to talk about our project, why we're here and why we do what we do. My name is Audrey Beam. I'm the Senior Project Manager for the Mid Ohio Farm Project within the Mid Ohio Food Collective. Here with my colleague Tim White, the Director of Governmental Advocacy. So we'll let him start and then I'll take over once we get to the farm portion.
Sounds good. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
That generally is not a problem with me, so I wasn't too worried about it. I want to give a quick update on MOFC, Mid Ohio Food Collective, and then more importantly, Audrey will follow and give an exciting update on the farm, what's happening there. But as you may be aware, MOFC is the largest hunger relief organization in Ohio, covering 20 counties, 700 partner agencies. One of the things, unfortunately, our trends are going in the wrong way. We're setting new records this year on service visits, people coming through. We're up across those 20 counties. First 6 months, over 600,000 total visits. That same period, let's see, that's 406,000 customers who have come through. That's a 39% and a 27% increase respectively. And perhaps the thing that concerns us the most, new customers, 100,000 people who never visited us before, 29% increase. That's comparative to the previous year, the same period. So even though we're through the pandemic and some of the other issues, inflation, we're still seeing a lot of fallout. And we expect that to continue for the next 2 years. So that's just kind of an update where we are as a hunger relief organization. If you want to go to the next slide. Next, yep, there you go. We are the Collective. We changed our name in 2020 from Mid-Ohio Food Bank to the Collective, and that was so that we could better reflect our 5 assets here. You can see the market, which is a dignified grocery store experience for our customers. Skip down Food Bank, our core asset. Mid-Ohio Kitchen, providing prepared foods for seniors, children, and other programs. Pharmacy, our food is health. And then what you're going to hear about today, the farm, which Audrey will talk more about that. Before I turn it over to her, I just want to say thank you for mentioning the Hilliard Food Pantry. And if you know anyone who needs food assistance somewhere else, mofc.org, go to the tab, get help, get food. That can direct you to a local pantry or give us a call if you need anything from us. But we appreciate the response of the community, everyone in it so far. And if you know folks who need anything, let us know. That is a partner agency. We've been working with them. So with that, thank you.
Great, thanks, Tim. So those of you that were at the Envision Hilltop meeting last month, I apologize because this will look very familiar with a few slight adjustments. So the Mid-Ohio Farm on the Hilltop project is a really exciting project for me. I've been on the team since October, so relatively new to the team. I've enjoyed meeting those of you that I have. Thank you for being so welcoming. I've got a lot to learn, but excited to be here. So the goal of the Mid-Ohio Farm is this idea of transforming vacant spaces into these smart, fresh food producing farms. The sort of thing that we hinge ourselves on is this idea of innovation and technology. So the idea that you can produce food in a small space, but maximize the amount that you're producing. So that's sort of what we leverage. We'll get to it a little bit later. I'll talk about our goals. So we can go to the next slide for now. So just a little bit about our team. Within the Food Collective, we fit under the strategy and development branch. So Nick Davis is the Chief Platform Officer of the Food Collective. He's over everything strategy, development. So we fit under there. Trevor Horn is our brand new farm director. This is his 2nd day. He's actually here with us. You want to wave, Trevor? Thanks. So we're very excited to have him. It's been quite a waiting period for him to join us, but he comes from Reynoldsburg City Schools as the food and ag science teacher. Also has background as a chef with Disney. So really cool background that I think will bring a lot to the farm project. We're very excited to have you. Myself there with my gardening hat and my garlic that I'm really proud of. Taylor Burchett, our farm manager for the Hilltop site specifically. So when that site opens, if you visit, you will see her. Tess Esposito is our lead gardener. Tama Ricks is our farm education coordinator. And then Jess Wheeler is our farm training manager. So yes, big announcement for us. As of yesterday, we welcomed Trevor to the team. So I kind of gave a little bit of his background already, so we can go ahead and skip through, but excited for him to join and think he'll bring a lot to the team. So our current solutions here, just to give a little bit of scope, I know we're focused on the Mid-Ohio Farm on the Hilltop specifically tonight, but just to give some scope for the other solutions that we have Mid-Ohio Farm at NBC4, that's right behind the NBC4 news station. And then the Mid-Ohio Food Collective in Grove City actually has demonstration gardens. Everything grown there is given to the Mid-Ohio kitchens, and they use it to prepare meals for our customers. So, and then obviously Mid-Ohio Farm on the Hilltop there on the right. Okay, so there's a lot of words up here, but what I will say is our goal is kind of 3 parts. So there's education, there's food production and access, and then there's this idea of agritourism. So how can we get people excited about innovation in agriculture? How can we develop job skills, readiness skills? How can we infuse the community with this exciting new project? So we can go to the next slide. So this is a rendering of the current layout. So you can see on the north side there is the parking lot. There are about 125 spaces there. Just south of that is the 12,000 square foot multi-purpose building. This site specifically really excites me because that's going to be the ingress and egress for the entire site. So everyone that comes to Mid-Ohio Farm on the Hilltop will go through that building. It'll be a great space to engage them, educate them on resources available to them, say thank you to our donors and partners. The space itself will have a demonstration kitchen where we can host cooking classes, community programs, serve meals. There will also be a flex space that could be used for community meetings. So if any nonprofits need a meeting space and want to come down to the farm and use it, they're welcome to. We can host summer programming there, after school programming. So that's kind of the idea for the building itself. Right behind it are the vertical growing towers, which are very visually impactful, and I'm very excited for everyone to see them. The idea behind them are the space that you could grow maybe 1 or 2 heads of lettuce on the ground. They then go vertical and you can grow 20 plants in the same amount of space. So again, that idea of maximizing production without acres and acres of land. There are also 3 greenhouses that you see, high tunnels, and then that back corner of the property there is a future phase of the project. So that's our operations barn and an innovation dome there. But everything that I talked about in depth, so the multi-purpose building, the towers, greenhouses, high tunnels, those are all phase 1 and tied into the timeline that I'm about. So we can go to the next slide. So what's happening right now? The big one is the multi-purpose building. That's where the most work is happening right now. I have some pictures to show you where it stands currently. So the exterior sheeting is complete there. They're installing siding right now, so it's very exciting. The electrical mechanical build out is ongoing and in progress. Greenhouses, the framing is completed. So they are these beautiful big greenhouses. There's just nothing inside them yet. So still working on the development of the interior utilities installation for those. And then site utilities grading, that will be ongoing until the project is complete. And then the high tunnels there as well. The anchor and framing system is complete. And now we're just working on the overlay and again, the internal development. Okay, so this is what February looked like out at the farm. Pretty gray, pretty muddy, but still exciting because you could see some of the framing going up for the multi-purpose building. Those are the greenhouses there. And if we skip to July, so next slide. This is where things are now. So it's really exciting. Those are windows. We're very excited that it is progressing as much as it is. The bottom right there is the inside of the multi-purpose building as of yesterday. And then the bottom left there are the high tunnels. You can see the framing and just imagine a nice sheet of plastic going over those and you'll have a high tunnel. Okay, so timeline. So summer 2023, it's still going to be a construction zone. We're still working on it. The end of August, that building should start to look like those renderings. So it will start to look complete. They'll start to do final site inspections. And then by the end of September, we are planning for phase 1 substantial completion with one caveat. So typically that would mean we're done, we get it, hooray, they turn over the site. There is one piece of our HVAC unit that has been delayed until the end of November. And unfortunately, that is the piece that will give us occupancy of the building. So we won't actually be able to host anything in that building until we receive that piece and our contractors install it. So we're looking at the end of the year for the opening of the site. Another note for September, that CAC will reconvene. I've already spoken with some of you about this and thank you for your interest in being on that. So the CAC is our Community Advisory Council. It used to exist several years ago, has kind of been on a hiatus while we get our team back up to full capacity. But we're really excited because we've started to talk to some community stakeholders and partners who have been very generous with their feedback. So how can we implement this project strategically in a way that amplifies the work already being done in the community instead of just coming in and duplicating and, you know, doing our own thing. We want to make sure we're really intentional and connected with other partners in this urban growing food access space. So very excited for that. Tim and I actually just talked about this. We'll be sending a save the date for anyone who's interested in serving on that council at the end of this month with the goal to have the first meeting in September. So if we haven't already met, I would love to meet you. If you have an interest in serving on that council, please feel free to reach out to me. And then even if you don't want to serve on it, but you have an idea of an organization that should serve on it, please let me know that as well. I want to make sure that we're hearing as many voices as possible with this. And then that's a render of eventually what the site will look like, so. Okay, so I do want to say thank you to the city of Columbus and Nick Falk and the Envision Hilltop Initiative. Lucy McMahon, it's been a pleasure to be part of this initiative. And there's no way that we could have done this project without their support. So just very appreciative of that. Excited to continue the work, and we'll open it up for questions.
And if anybody wants to tour, we will be setting those up, so you'll be hearing the commission. We will definitely do a group tour for you all at some point. Okay, fall, late fall.
Yeah, let us know when tours can start, and we can make sure that we at least get that out.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, Audrey, thank you for the presentation again, and Tim. You already fielded this question for me when Envision met a few weeks ago, but for the community, can you talk what that frontage and its current state on North Wheatland, and I know we'll hear about the North Wheatland project, but how do you envision that connecting with the neighborhood on North Wheatland?
yeah, thank you, Joe, because it's a really important question, especially for those immediate neighbors. So the idea is green space. So grass, trees, space for people to just relax, enjoy, play. However, it will be tied to that wheatland improvements project. So final plans we are still working on. We have, a landscape design plan already, but sort of waiting to see what happens with that improvements project before we do anything permanent. But that's the plan for it.
Gotcha, thank you.
Question, what does your success criteria look like? I mean, you talked about innovation in food, and I'm leery about that. Like, does that mean, do you make sure it's nutritional? How do you measure that? And how do you make sure, you're not just getting stuff different?
Yeah,
So the
no,
question is, what is your success criteria? Is that the main question?
yeah, and it's multifaceted because we have those three goals, right? So we have the food production and access, the education, and then this idea of agritourism. But I guess I'll speak mostly to the food production and access, since that kind of seems to be where your concerns are. Is that correct? Kind of the innovation in food production?
Yeah, because I mean, you hear a lot like the stuff that really nutritional, and you still have to take supplements. So how do you guys ensure that the food that is
Yeah, so there are her guidelines that the Food Collective uses, HER, that sort of gives a nutritional rating to everything. Everything that we do plan to grow falls into the green category of those guidelines. So that's the highest nutritional category that you can have. As far as the methods we use, which is maybe more where your question is coming from. So the systems that we plan to use are diverse. They range from deep water culture, aquaponics, hydroponics, aeroponics, a gutter system with a high wire growing system. So there are different ways that we plan to grow. And the idea behind going that way is that nutrients are filtered through the water sources. So there are nutrients that you can plug into the water. And we've done sort of taste testing at least, and then the companies that we work with have done nutritional testing. And what we can grow with these methods that we use is oftentimes just as, if not more, nutritional or tastes better than what you grow with some traditional methods.
So you said water, what about the dirt, the soil?
So most of our methods are soilless. We will have some soil growing methods. Trevor brings a really cool growing method with him that we're excited to implement. But the majority of those the methods that we use are soilless. So for those vertical towers, which will be probably the most visually impactful thing, it's a cocoa fiber is the growing medium. So it's not actually soil.
Will fish be part of your aquaponics function?
Cool. We have talked about it. Nothing in immediate plans unless Trevor feels strongly otherwise. He's nodding. So eventually, yes. And that's what's really exciting for our team right now is we were under one leadership for several years, had a bit of a break in between, about 7 months, and now Trevor's coming on board with new ideas, a fresh vision. So all of this that we talked about today is there, but excited to see how it adapts under his leadership.
And one more crazy question, right?
my neighbor is an apiary, right? He's got like 4 hives. And then I've been hearing more and more people with bees. Will there be an apiary or will there be a space where people might be able to finish or process honey or something like that on site?
Ooh, processing is a good question. I'm not sure about that, but we definitely have talked about bees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a sugar shack or a maple
Oh,
syrup.
you've already named it, Joe. I love it. Sure, Shack.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So has there been any thought to, the outreach and collaboration and connections with the schools?
Schools, yes.
Yes, I know that Jeff, right, what's your name? What's your chef's name?
Sure.
Trevor.
Yeah, our director.
You know, worked in the public school system. So we heard third grade guarantee, we heard all those things, all the needs of the children on the hilltop. Elementary, middle, and high school, especially with high school, is there gonna be any type of connection with education, programming, collaboration, jobs?
Yeah, so I guess I'll speak to one program in particular that we're really excited about. It's a mentorship program geared specifically for students in the Columbus City school system to train them on the methods that we are using. A 2-year sort of mentorship program where they are on our site working with us, sort of troubleshooting under the umbrella of Mid-Ohio Farm so that they're not, using their own resources to test those methods out. And then once they complete that program, we'll have the skills and readiness to be able to start their own urban farm. So that's kind of our plan for that mentorship program. Starting with 2 mentees at first to pilot the program and then scaling up from there in future years. So that's kind of the job training skilling that we're planning for, but then as a broader reach, yes. So that this staff slide that I spoke about before, Tama is our education coordinator, and then Jess Wheeler is our farm training manager. Both of them will be working with students, and Jess specifically focuses on high school students. Just to sort of capture them in case they are interested in that mentorship program, but really just to open their eyes to all of the future progress that's happening in the ag world, because it's changing rapidly.
Okay, so I hear the mentorship program. So.
Some other programs that we're planning, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're planning like summer youth programming, so kind of like what you think, like summer camps, field trips will be a big part of what we do. After school programming, again, this is all, Trevor gets to decide all of this now.
Yeah.
These are things that we've talked about. So those are kind of the main plans for now.
No battery recharged.
Probably the speaker.
It's like so one more question and then I'll give up the floor, right? So there are culinary programming and education in high schools. I would hope, but I'm not gonna put you on the spot or anything like that, that there's gonna be some partnership with that, especially with Columbus City Schools around the culinary arts program.
You are speaking Trevor's language.
Okay,
So
okay, Trevor, we need to chat.
thank you for the questions. I appreciate it.
So, yeah, we're gonna go later.
Oh, he did what? He
Trevor
said
wanted
what?
to say something. Take the mic.
Yeah.
guess with my experiences at Brownsburg, there's a fine line between culinary arts, right? And just basic life skills.
Right.
And so ideally, when I created a program in Reynoldsburg, we were trying to connect farm to table, right? So we would grow tomatoes, we can and dry those tomatoes, the kids would turn them into pasta sauce, pizza sauce. We had a carbohydrate unit, and then we made pasta from scratch. They learn how to do some life skills along with the science behind what the opportunity for them to take this into their real life or get inspired to maybe find a career that falls into. In my experiences, like prior to education, there was a big disconnect between chefs, aspiring chefs, and where their food came from, right? And I thought to myself, like, if this is a big problem with chefs or aspiring foodies, right? What's the general public? So when I created programming for students, I mean, I've had students say it's white broccoli, like that's called, right? So we have some work we need to do just in the education piece. So, and that's huge. I just want to touch on one thing, soil, right? Most of our nutritional density comes from the idea that the ground feeds us, or feeds the plant, and the plant feeds us. So we hope to tie in as much soil microbiomes and using technology. It's almost like agriculture is going backwards in time to go forwards in order to make it more efficient, right? So what our goal is although we're using towers and different medians, is how do we provide a nutritional density to the food that they're trying to grow? To make it more nourishing, to have the vitamins, minerals. This morning we harvested 77 pounds of lettuce. When you cut into the lettuce right out of the ground, it has a bit of higher antioxidants, higher in free radicals. If we can close the gap between when it's harvested and when it gets into someone's table, they eat it, that's exactly where we're okay, so teaching people about it is 100% what we need to do. You know, the composition of our soil, right? We need to get off of Cheetos and Takis and get towards what it looks like to actually grow some food to help these kids grow and be successful, pay attention in school so that they can, right? So those are some of our goals. I don't need to steal the limelight, but we're here to help, you know, and I feel like I'm jumping on board with this. Already doing amazing things. Kind of makes my job a little easier. Yeah, so we will probably have fish at some.
Trevor, thank you. Audrey and Tim, thank you for your presentation. If there's one final question or comment of anybody, just I need to get back on schedule, but this was a great update. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you plan to balance, like security of your property, but also like public accessibility and people being able to come in and enjoy the space? What's that gonna look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have a walkthrough with our security team on Thursday to talk about some creative solutions. So I will say those things are sort of still in talks, in progress. Right now we have 24/7 surveillance security on the site. I'm not sure if that will continue, but that big fence on North Wheatland right now, if anyone has seen it, it is ugly. That will not stay. So that will change.
Great.
Yeah.
Is that a third party or are you guys using like, is that like a third party security group that you guys are
It
using
is.
or is it CPD?
No, it's a third party.
I just want to add just from a more compassionate side that I hope that whatever security systems we are using, because we've seen like, you know, the homeless shelters use third party security systems, that they have some type of compassion for the folks that are around that area. Especially our houseless folks. I mean, obviously, we know we don't want them hanging out doing anything negative, but you know, obviously we see there's such a negative aspect with security systems and CBD in the community. So I'm just possibly add that into hoping that they have that side of it.
Yeah, that's important feedback. Thank you, Kayla.
Great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation.
Just from that little bit,
The update is
you guys can see why we're excited. Trevor has joined the team. It's
Yeah.
day 2 for him. So.
What's the best way to keep updated about what's going on? What's the best way?
So our website, our social media channels right now are the best. Eventually hope to have one solely for the farm
Oh,
itself.
nice, okay.
But if anyone has questions or wants to come out for a tour, always happy to meet with you, meet at Third Way, or you can come on site and we'll walk it together. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so Matthew's here, Matthew Lawrence. He's an engineer with the city of Columbus, going to talk about North Wheatland Avenue improvements and give us an update about that, so.
I'm Matthew Lorenz with the Department of Public Service. I act as an engineer to help guide projects through a design process to get it out to construction. So I am working as a project manager for the North Wheatland improvements, which are going to support the farm project coming through. So this is with the Department of Public Service. We prepare plans, we advertise plans for construction. And we inspect it all the way through the construction process when it's a city asset and public right of way. So we will be making improvements to North Wheatland Avenue. We did have a public meeting last month over in the community, right there next to Glenview Park at the community center. I know some of you attended that. Good turnout. So basically the big overview of it is we're going to be making improvements to Wheatland Avenue all the way from Broad Street up around the corner of Glenview Boulevard. Those improvements will include widening. So we're going to widen out to the east side closer to the farm to provide 2 travel lanes, travel lane in each direction, which is a little bit different than today. So if you drive up there today, you'll notice that Wheatland Avenue changes direction a couple of times. It's one way for a portion, then it's one way in the other direction and another portion. It's kind of confusing for people. You'll see people parked in all directions as you go up there. But these improvements will actually make it wider and preserve, the majority of the on-street parking on Wheatland Avenue. We'll also add a sidewalk, for the entire length, and that sidewalk will wrap around, like I said, on Glenview Boulevard, up to provide connection to the Glenview Park, which is another City of Columbus asset with recreation and parks. So we're still working our way through our design process right now. Like I said, we just had a public meeting. That public meeting was kind of like the kickoff because we're working with our city attorney to go approach property owners to purchase rights to come onto their property and make these improvements. You know, we have to build curb ramps for ADA access and start constructing some retaining walls. If you've walked up there or familiar with the area, you know that those houses sit quite a bit higher than the roadway does. And so when we come through and construct the sidewalk and construct the street, we're gonna, be getting into these people's yards. So we're gonna talk with the city attorney. They're gonna approach the people and make them an offer for the rights to use their property. So that process is going on right now. They're going through appraisals. The city attorney handles all of that. They'll be doing that for probably the next 8 months as they go through. Our goal is to start construction, hopefully next spring, maybe early summer, and then wrapping up before the end of the year in 24. We are going to be relocating the existing power lines on the east side of the road. There's quite high transmission lines that are the city power, and we're going to be pushing those a little bit further to the east, get them further away from the road, but also allow for that sidewalk and that lane to be built. I think that covers everything that I needed to. Like I said, this is going to support this great project through here, that and the Wheatland Crossing, which was another also supported with the Department of Development several years ago. So hopefully this is going to be a successful project. I know it's a much needed facelift and improvement there to Wheatland Avenue. Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, sure.
I heard you say something about electric. Now, what about water lines and drainage? Are you gonna pave the road and then tear it back up and fix the plumbing? Or how old are them water lines, sewer lines there?
So,
I just noticed that a lot.
No, and unfortunately, unfortunately, the city of Columbus is kind of divided into different little silos, right? So I work with the Department of Public Service, we do the roadways and we do the, the sidewalks and stuff like that. So we are making improvements to the drainage. So as noted with that front yard and how that, and how the farm interacts with Wheatland Avenue, right there in their front yard, we're gonna be putting a, pretty significant detention basin, right? So it's gonna be an area that can hold water to meet our stormwater requirements that we work with public utilities. Correct.
Public utilities for water lines.
So
They all
no,
go bad. Are you gonna dig up that fresh concrete, that new roadway you just laid down, all that nice yard work you do?
No, it's not gonna immediately follow. I don't know the condition of those water lines, but the Division of Water didn't feel like they needed to be replaced. So they're meeting their needs and met their lifetime, so.
Yeah, I just wonder if they put their 2 cents into it.
Oh, absolutely. So for every project that the public service does or any other city division, we route what we call a scope of improvements to all city divisions so that everybody has a chance to look at it. So we don't run into those situations. So we try to avoid that where we can, but unfortunately, sometimes with emergencies, we do get that to happen.
Thank you very much, Matt, again, for being here. And we appreciate your, and the teams coming out to Bolton a couple of weeks ago. You gave us a lot of good valuable time and really let us chat. So I want to ask 2 questions I asked you at that meeting, but also just here in the public forum, to put them on the record. The first relates to the initial community goal about the role of the Mid-Ohio Food Collective and the farm. Here, we want it to be a community asset. We want to be able to engage with that farm regularly, all the residents in the area and the rest of the hilltop. However, that is still a fairly high-speed road. And there's a lot of concern that it's going to become even higher speed when the road is smooth, when it's a little less of a steep curve on the north end and wider. And so just as a resident, someone who rides my bike and walks through there, and comments from neighbors, safe traffic crossings to get to and from marked. I love when I see the big yellow and white, so you can press the button, it flashes, the cars are supposed to stop for that. And as well as signage for share the road with recyclists. Because drivers are still fairly aggressive at times, so it's, you know, you just want to put that out and plug that.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you can't see too much with detail on that schematic. But we will be replacing those, you know, those what we call sharers, you know, it's kind of share the road. It's for information for both bicyclists and people in vehicles that, hey, you know, this is a shared space between those two different modes of transportation. So those will be replaced. We'll be replacing the signs with brand new signs as we go out there. We will be improving the pedestrian crossings. So today the road is just a little bit shy of being able to take 2 lanes, but when we come through, we'll widen it out. But we're also going to include what we call curb extensions or bump outs or something like that. So, you know, Hague Avenue here moving north and right outside the window, you can see those same kind of curb extensions. We use those a lot, especially with some of our more recent projects, as a traffic calming feature, right? It kind of visually narrows that roadway so that people don't perceive it as wide open and they can drive. Those will also kind of give a space for people to park, right? So it defines that parking area for the anybody that is on the street parking. They tend to park closer to the curb and, you know, in a little bit more orderly fashion. But most importantly, it crosses that that crossing distance. So whenever a pedestrian does come up and want to cross the road, they only have to cross those 2 lanes of traffic instead of crossing an additional parking lane as well. It puts them a little bit closer, but adds that protection of having a curb. So yes, we did consider some of those things. We're not putting marked crosswalks everywhere. We have different policies and standards on that, and I'm more than happy to elaborate on those, but I'll spare all the audience of the engineering.
I just want to ask one more question. I'll turn it over to the commissioners. Because you know, we currently, you know, full disclosure, I live on this stretch, and so I am interested in it, but there's, even if I didn't, I would be concerned with tractor trailers that try to make that turn. Big trucks will come through there. And so, you know, have you considered either no through, like no through truck on there, maybe direct them to Wilson to go to the freeway and back when they're coming up and down West Broad Street, for example, instead of using North Eureka and North Wheatland, North Oakley to try to make those tight, skinny turns on what is a steep corner?
Yeah, no worries. So right now that isn't a part of this project, is to restrict any of that, any kind of truck traffic. I will say that these improvements are going to substantially improve that curve on the north end. Right now, it's almost like it's like an intersection that lost 2 parts of it, I lost out the intersection. This will actually establish a curve to it. We'll put a sidewalk on one side to make it a little bit easier to get across. And then, hey, if we notice those things keep coming up and we, get reports of things, then those are steps that the city can definitely take. We don't have to wait for a big construction project like this. We have, within public service, we have our own forces that can go out and sign things and restrict things. But unfortunately, those have to go through a process, right? Because whenever we restrict access to a certain classification, it needs to be codified so that we can enforce that as well.
Okay, thank you.
What should neighbors along that stretch be expecting in the next couple of months? You said the city attorney will be approaching folks for appraisals and offers. Are they gonna get a mailing ahead of time? Or is that gonna just be like?
They've already received mailings. Most of the ones that we have, they've received the mailing from the city attorney saying, hey, we're gonna be approaching you. You might see a person coming out to appraise. So just like if you're selling a property, an appraiser comes out, uses their standards and everything to determine a value. They're going to do the same thing. They'll drive around, take a look at the property, look at the surrounding area to set a land value, right? We are not taking anybody's homes. We designed this project to try to be as minimally impactful to those homes and those residences on the west side of Wheatland Avenue as possible. And we are really just taking bits and corners. Where we're really impacting stuff is to the other properties on the east side of the street. So Wheatland Crossing, we're going to be taking a really wide strip to widen the road there. The same thing with the property where the Mid-Ohio Food Collective is going to be or is, as a matter of fact. So both of those things will have a much bigger impact, but they don't follow the same kind of process.
I just follow up on that really quickly. Does that mean like checks will be sent?
Eventually, yes, eventually. So anytime we get onto somebody's private property, we have to have the rights to do so, right? And so we have to compensate them for those rights to do so.
Does that, so if somebody rents there, does the landlord?
It goes to the property.
Property.
Let me make sure we have time for any questions about this presentation from anybody here in the audience that might have come to ask a question or comment. Yeah, between now and the end of the year is if you were looking for an opportunity to communicate again, come to another presentation. Is there any interval, any place that you would say, I'd like to come back and talk to people that would like to come and hear more about it?
They can always reach out. There's a fact sheet posted on the Department of Public Service website with my contact information. I'm also included in the agenda. But I'd be happy to come out and talk at any time.
Okay.
We are going to be making some changes this fall. So at the very northern end of the project, there's a heavily wooded area. Since we're going to be widening there and due to environmental regulations, we're actually going to start cutting down trees there this fall with another city project so that we meet all our environmental regulations. So if all of a sudden people show up, cut down the trees, take down the fence that's out there, and then they'll leave and it's like, what's happening? But we'll come back later and do the rest of the project.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So next up is our presentation from the Wilson's Block Watch. We've got Mr. Zender and Don Zender and Zach Witt are here to do a presentation. They contacted me and asked if we could do this presentation tonight last week, and I said, absolutely. This is really important. What I'm concerned about is we won't have enough time to hear everybody's comments, questions, input. So as a follow-up, next Tuesday, this is working very well. Next Tuesday, at the library here, what's the date? 18th. And we're going to start that meeting at 6 p.m. And we will hear a couple of zoning applications that are already on the agenda, but we want to invite you back to have a longer discussion about what we're going to hear today. And April. 7/18. Thank you for your help. July 18th. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Zender, and do the presentation. We've got some slides to show. At the end of the presentation, we've got a little bit more time actually, because we're not going to have a zoning applicant here tonight. So we do have a little bit more time to kind of extend. But maybe you can give us a 5-minute warning when we're kind of at the point where if we have discussions or comments, that we can kind of move on. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dan. My name is Don Zender. I'm here with neighbor Zachary Witt. Our neighborhood sits on the northern boundary of the Hilltop Commission. We're bordered by 70 on the north, Wilson Road on the west, Hague Avenue on the east, and Fisher Road on the south. 2 weeks ago, we all awoke to our neighborhood of a bus terminal that kind of took us all by surprise. It was placed into a former rundown Shell gas station on Wilson Road. This is Wilson and Farrell, just a block south of the I-70 interchange, south of the pilot station there. In those 2 weeks, we've been neighbors and residents. Both residents and business owners have endured quite a bit that we were not prepared for with our new neighbors. And Zach has prepared a kind of an in-depth overview. First, an overview of kind of what we've gone through, which will lead more to an in-depth conversation, hopefully in the future and as well for next Tuesday.
Thanks, everybody, for putting this together on such short notice, giving us an opportunity to speak. Thanks for meeting members and the media for coming out tonight. We really appreciate all the attention you've been able to drum up on such short time scale. So we're going to go through this, and word of warning, I was working on this presentation until about 4 a.m. this morning and functioning on cups of coffee, and I haven't actually reviewed it all that much, so I apologize in advance if this comes across a little bit haphazard. But go to the next slide.
This here is the site that we're talking about, 845 North Wilson Road. It is right adjacent to a residential neighborhood, the corner of Farrell Place. Across the street, there are a few local businesses such as community gas stations, fast food location, Waffle House. For the most part, it's been a pretty quiet neck of the woods since I moved into the area back in 2019. And at that time, it was a Shell gasoline station. And this is pretty small Shell. It's not your, there's sheets popping up all over the place that are much, much larger than this location is. I think they had 6 pumps, when they were operational. I think we'll talk a little bit more about the property here as we've got some other pictures for you, but it is zone C4, which is a commercial kind of general use coding for it. It's a little bit less than an acre in size. Currently, and if you can look at the bottom picture there, this is from back in December of 2022. There have been some alterations. You can see this little drive was, the city made them shut that off. So now we have buses that enter in off of this location. You got Wilson Road running this direction, and then this is Farrell Place. They exit right here in the corner. I'd like to point out a few things. This is a residential home that abuts the property. There is a gas station here. Property line, of course, ends there. And then this is at the moment a vacant lot. And then, of course, another residential home, residential homes on this side of the street as well. Next slide, please. So a couple different concerns that we have as neighbors. First and foremost has got to be the crime. We paid attention all to the news stories, been a lot of coverage over this already, but we rewind a couple of years to when they being the Greyhound terminal was located downtown. The city went so far as actually declaring it, or was in the process of declaring it a public nuisance. They were averaging more than 2 calls a day. I believe there was a stretch of time in 1 year there where they had 1,200 calls at each site. They decided to move that to our neighborhood. We have this is just these crimes I'm listing here all happened within the first few days. I think the most recent one was on the 5th of July. We've had an assault. We've had at least 1 robbery. That was aggravated robbery back on point. There's been a couple criminal menacing complaints, one involving a juvenile, trespassing on local business properties. We'll go into that a little bit more detail here in a second. Theft from the adjacent businesses, general vagrancy. A lot of these things are going to go hand in hand with the bus stop, and there's no way around it. But at the same time, the viewpoint is this was not the right location, given the surrounding area, and also, of course, the lack of notice to the community to prepare. We did talk to a few responding police officers in the first few days. They said they were given no kind of notice from the city that this was going to happen. They expressed some apprehension about whether or not they had the resources in this particular cruiser district in order to cope with it. They don't, it's not the same as downtown, where you have the main police station just right around the corner from them. Next slide. Public safety. This site has no traffic light. There is no crossing signal. There's no crosswalks for that mentioned. CODA operates on both sides of the street, so you have passengers that are being dropped off, seeking to use the Greyhound terminal, that are forced to run across Wilson Road, which is 5 lanes. You have sidewalks on one side of Wilson, not on the other side, or at least not the entirety of the other side. The location itself has no food, no concessions, but of course, Greyhound took care of that when they directed their customers to go ahead and use the adjoining fast food and Waffle House without, of course, providing them a safe way of getting to those locations. There's no public restrooms currently. There are porta-johns in the parking lot. There's 2 of them. I can't imagine what using one of those is like in the July heat, but
Luckily, I don't have to. Most of the passengers seem to not want to as well. According to local businesses, they're going in and leaving their restrooms in disarray and walking out. There's no lockers. You can see on the photo on the right, this is the property median between the terminal and the gas station next door. Those are passenger belongings that are strewn about in the grass. Of course, like I said, no lockers, no place for them to keep them otherwise. There's no customer parking for the travelers. They have to be dropped off by some form of other ulterior, mode of transportation, be it a COTA bus, family member, ride share, taxi cab. We have talked to all of those folks at length. Nobody is happy with the arrangement that they have. There is no plan to have any customer parking at this location. There is no plan to have any food or concessions at this location. The lobby capacity, according to the early zoning and site plan permits, has 12 occupants permitted. That includes the one staff member that they have on site. A Greyhound bus, or I guess I should say a coach bus, has anywhere between 50 to 55 people on it. We've seen as many as 9 buses on the private property at the same time. So yeah, again, we're circling back to this site. It's not suitable. It doesn't have the room for what they're trying to do. We have noise complaints from the neighbors. It is a 24-hour site. 2 a.m. they have announcements blaring out that are waking up the adjacent neighbors, people who moved in never ever expecting that this was going to happen. Horns, air brakes from the buses, and then of course the occasional altercation and shouting that seems to be a daily occurrence over here. And we do have video recordings from the neighbors that can back all of this up. I personally have not been able to obtain them, but I believe there are quite a few 311 city code violation complaints that have been filed. I've requested them. The city has not provided them as of yet. Granted, I've given them a little bit slack since they just had red, white, and boom to deal with. But I know we have had some problems with the trash piling up on the street. According to a dispatch article that was printed here this Sunday, the one and only staff member at the site, who makes $13 an hour, is not only responsible for ticket sales and customer service complaints, but also the cleanup of the area. Next slide. Well, I should mention, there are future development as we speak, actually, or at least earlier today. They are in the process of knocking down the old car wash that was, on site. They're, I believe, going to do another terminal according to the site plans that were submitted to the city. That site was requesting locker storage. It was requesting public restroom. According to the staff member at the location, that's supposed to happen in August if all goes according to plan. But according to everybody involved, things have not really been going to plan. So we'll see what happens on that aspect. So next one, and this, I'm glad that somebody from the city engineer's office was here. Maybe we could direct some questions to him as well. Sorry to put you on the spot. We have is the vehicle and pedestrian traffic. Like I said, there is no sidewalks. There's no method of safely crossing the street. You have to run across it, dodging traffic. There is a pilot station 1 block over. There's lots of semi trucks, other large commercial vehicles that go down Wilson. It's speed limits, I believe, 45 miles an hour. We talked to the city attorney's office as well as a few other people who have returned calls anyways. And there is no plan to put a light at this location because it is too close to the I-70 Wilson off ramp. They say that it's just not practical given the proximity and will cause too many traffic issues. We have, so I mentioned it's 24 hours. I mentioned most of the other things.
The egress onto Farrell Place. Farrell Place is about a residential street off to the side. They are, they're coming off the main road, they go down onto that street. And they are blocking the access to it for the residents. Of all the photos, and there's a lot of them that the community members have given us. This one right here is my very, very favorite. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 CODA buses, or I'm sorry, not CODA buses, Greyhound and I believe Barron's bus sitting on Barrel Place, blocking both, the entirety of the width of the road. We have a bus here sitting on the neighbor's property. This is that vacant lot across the street. Got another picture of that. If you recall the last slide on the crime, what had happened is there was an altercation on the bus where somebody kicked out the windows, I believe. They left the bus parked there because of course they don't have enough room to keep it on their property. And as far as anybody who knows, there's nobody would mind, I guess, on the vacant lot next door. I talked to the property owner for confirmation on that, but we also have a bus over here that is loading off of Farrell because they don't have the room at the terminal. So they are having them exit onto this street with no sidewalk. And of course, it's sitting right next to a fire hydrant. Whether or not that's 10 feet, I don't know. You can be the judge. And then, of course, the no truck sign. Yeah. So a very, very good little snapshot of a lot of the traffic issues I think that you might imagine is occurring over there. If you would, next slide, please. This isn't the first location that Greyhound and Barron's and Flixbus and GoBus have done this to. It seems to be kind of a nationwide movement. I've seen some news articles and press clippings from Greyhound spokespeople that the new ownership has kind of encouraged moves away from the city and into surrounding suburbs. So I have here 2 that have recently opened with, inside of Ohio. The top one is Arlington Heights, which is a suburb of Cincinnati. Bottom one is Trotwood, which is just outside Dayton. And I'd like to point out a few comparisons. At Arlington Heights, they run 15 schedules a day compared to 34 at our site. The lot size is at least 2 times the size. When I try to pull the auditor website, the property line is not nearly as big as this actual lot. So I think they have some adjoining easements or something that has given them a little bit more land. You'll notice that they are providing both staff and customer parking, a lot more room for the actual buses themselves. They have marked crosswalks. And they also have installed, and this is new, they installed a 6-foot tall fence around the property, which, we do have some residential homes across the street. Be nice if they had given us the same kind of consideration. Below it here, we have Trotwood, Ohio. I spoke to the city manager of Trotwood earlier today, actually, a man named Quincy Pope. And he said, and this is, after about 2 years of service, he said he wants them gone. They have no contribution. All of the requests that they have put into this site have been resisted. And for the most part, they've had to use other methods in order to coerce them into, for instance, painting it, putting restrooms in the location. I did link some helpful news articles and citations on most of these pages. If afterwards you get a hold of this presentation, you want to back check me on any of it, by all means, go ahead. They run 12 schedules a day compared to our 34 at that site. That may, I'm basing these off of the press releases for these sites. It may have changed since then. Greyhound's website isn't exactly easily to navigate in terms of what kind of traffic they tend to display
not only their buses, but also every other company that uses their locations as well. The closest residential homes are over a half mile away. They do not operate 11 p.m. through 7:30 a.m. as does the Arlington Heights shutdown. Also kind of during those evening hours there, as opposed to the 24-hour service that they have decided our site is suitable for. Again, accessible by sidewalks and crosswalks. And these are direct quotes from the mayor. It's a despicable place, not a good fit for the community. This was in reference to a December incident where one of the buses dropped some passengers off, and I guess the transfer bus that they were supposed to board was not there. It got canceled or delayed. Companies said tough luck. So all those passengers were left standing outside in the cold. I don't know if you recall Christmas, December timeframe, but as I remember it, it was around, I think, 3 degrees here in Columbus, Ohio. It was the coldest time of the year and the only time we got any snow, which was nice for my 2-year-old child for once, but I digress. Luckily enough, city officials were able to take those passengers over to the police station so they didn't have to sit outside all night. We have had at least 1 or 2 buses, just based off of that dispatch article I mentioned and talking to the reporter who wrote it, where the same type of situation occurred. In one incident, they were coming on a Barron's bus down from Cleveland. There was a wreck on the interstate that delayed the bus. By the time it arrived in Columbus, the transfer bus had departed. One gentleman had been waiting there for 4 days at the bus station because he had no other methods, buy room or anything. And he was trying to get to a wife who is currently hospitalized someplace down south in the country. Another individual said he was trying to transfer, bus left without him. I don't know the details on that. He had been waiting for about 11 hours that day and was told he would have to purchase a second ticket. Go ahead and let's go to the next one. Before we get too much into this, I want to mention that this site is actually owned by Barron's Bus, not Greyhound. It's Greyhound's name on the side of the terminal. As far as we can tell, it is a lease arrangement between the organizations, and this seems to be a pretty common operation. I think it's significant because if you were to pull the city permits and applications, it is Barron's Bus that is listed on those, not Greyhound. We have a lot of problems with the city and how they went about issuing these approvals. I don't believe that they gave it a good, thorough look through. They didn't consider a lot of these issues that I'm bringing to you right now. But some of that might be understandable depending on if you were in that office and you saw an application come through for a regional bus service. Maybe they didn't know that there were 34 routes at the time. I don't know. I don't know what kind of inquiry that they should have conducted on that, but I would like to find out. So Greyhound has, and this is in response to the recent news articles on this, Greyhound's district manager for our area said that Greyhound was sold to this German company, which is Flixbus here in the States, with the new emphasis on terminals and cutting costs. I spoke to the crew that is currently working on the demolition of the car wash there, and they echoed similar mentality on that and experience with the company. So we take the brunt of the criticism because we're a big national corporation. It's our name on the building. I don't know who else we should address that criticism to. City officials maybe, but it seems like it's your business and you're going to, run it the way you want to run it. You're going to have to own up to that. They said we don't really want to be out of the downtowns, but the city's safety demands and other improvements have just made it extremely costly for us. And we just didn't want to raise the rates. And while I can understand that the business is up against new competition all the time, airfare is getting cheaper and cheaper. The fact is, if you're going to not care about the safety of your customers, then I really don't think you have any leg to stand on when it comes to this stuff. Well, most recent article, I don't know if they didn't get a hold of Mr. I think he pronounces it Guy. Or if they've escalated it, but the Flixbus PR manager responded that they had over $1 million invested in the property. They are currently making improvements on it as we speak. For instance, the terminal, would be an example of that in place of the car wash. They do have 24/7 security. It is just the normal site security, rent the cop to use, another term, I suppose. And they're working on hiring a second one. I used to work security for Ohio State, and our authority, such as it was, stopped at the property line. It doesn't really help people that are being accosted, on the adjacent properties. For instance, the one individual who was robbed at gunpoint rode up here from Portsmouth, Ohio on one of their buses. He went across the street and kind of catty corner to where there's a motel, checked in. Another passenger had followed him from the station, busted into his room, stripped him naked, robbed him. At one point, he was able to put the assailant put the gun down on the table, and the victim took advantage of it and ran out and was able to contact the police before anything else more terrible had happened. But that individual, whoever it was, then went back over to the Greyhound terminal and caught a ride in a car. I don't know where. That is publicly available, police report that you can pull right now if you so choose to read about it. Their $1 million investment is great, I suppose. They spent $650,000 on that, just acquiring the site. I know they have about 20 or so invested in the demolition of the car wash. I don't know how much they had spent in the preliminary site plans before they decided to actually close on the location. I don't know if that includes their security cost that they're going to have for a site like this. But they, Greyhound got paid $9.5 million for their old location downtown. If they're going to sink $1 million into this one, it's not exactly a fair trade in my mind. But again, they're all about cutting costs. So next slide, please. So here's a couple of questions for the local officials and everybody involved. We want to know, and I'm sure everybody else here has their own questions, but we'd like to know, was the city aware that in addition to Barron's, when they approved these permits, if it was going to be the primary hub for Greyhound, Go Bus, Flixbus, and I don't know who else yet. The companies made a pretty rapid approach to this. They announced the site on Monday, the 26th of June. They opened the site on Wednesday, the 28th. They actually installed the signage, the lanes, and painted the interior of the location all on the 27th. I drove past there at about 1 a.m. On the evening between the 27th and the 28th. They still had a crew inside scrambling to get everything completed in time. Now, I don't know if that's standard operating procedure for businesses these days or not, but to me, it seems like they knew they were going to get community pushback, and they waited till the very, very last possible moment. Their website itself didn't even mention the new site until the morning that they started service. And in fact, if you check Barron Bus's site right now and look at this terminal, they have a picture of the old abandoned Shell gas station, still boarded up, no signage or anything along those lines, as their official photo for the location. In their defense, I assume they're pulling that from Google Maps, but who knows?
For sure.
The city knows when they approved the plans that 34
buses were going to be running through the site. And by the way, 34, we actually have video evidence of more than 34 that have appeared at this location. I'll cut them a little bit of slack because buses do run late. So in a measured 24-hour period, maybe you're going to have some overlap there that wasn't intended, but that is compared to some of those other sites that I mentioned. Did the city know that there was no safety in the roadway There are COTA bus stations on both sides of Wilson, as I mentioned. So people, if the intention is to have them ride there, they're going to have to run across this busy intersection or street, because there's not really an intersection there. Did they know that, or were engineers consulted, I guess, regarding the usage of that residential street, Farrell Place, for the egress? I know zoning, the city zoning officials have been extremely cooperative. They've returned every phone call that I've made. They've provided all the documentation, but their inquiry stops at that property line. And I haven't been able to get much from anybody else in terms of the city departments out there. So I don't know who would be responsible for this analysis, or were they even paying attention to it? Again, it was Barron's Bluffs, not Greyhound, that submitted these plans. But now that they're there, now that they're blocking a residential street and preventing residents from accessing their homes and potentially preventing EMS from responding to, as one of the residents put it, the elderly individual at the end of the block who requires frequent squad runs. I would really like to know what the city plans on doing regarding that access. I think they need to revisit that decision. Want to know whether or not the traffic patterns were reviewed to decide whether we could even cope with 34 buses, which equates to about 1,700 people if we are to assume they are running at maximum capacity, walking around the area, whether or not all of those rides, those taxis, those Ubers, those Lyfts, those COTA buses are going to be able to pick these people up without making them wait, without backing up the traffic all throughout the area. City officials, and this is going back to the zoning, like I said, they've been very cooperative. The site was rated as a C4 general use. According to them, that does not require any kind of public notice if something falls within C4. C4 doesn't actually mention bus terminals, but it does mention our taxi cab and limousine services. And I should also know it's a non-exhaustive list. There's about 30 or 40 things that are specifically laid out in there, but the statute or code section does say that the list is not all inclusive, and that the director of zoning has the authority to, make judgment calls on this. But when I talked to them, one of the factors that they used was that there was a limousine and taxi cab service. And I suppose at a very high level analysis, maybe that does sound similar, but those aren't sites where you go to them. They come to you. You call a limousine, you call a cab, they come to you. You don't line up on the street waiting for them to arrive to pick you up. So we want to know why, given all of that, and given COTA's previous history, or not, sorry, COTA, Greyhound's previous history with the citywide local residents and businesses, we're not told about this. We're residents. I imagine no homeowner wants this in their backyard. I know I certainly don't, but the businesses don't want it either. We've talked to every one of the adjoining ones. They're all very upset. One of the gas stations indicated that theft is up 40% since the site moved in. The other one speculates similar. The truck stop, which has a gas station and fast food location in it, also said that they were a little concerned that those people may not, or may already know their policy that they're not allowed to interfere because they are just walking up, taking stuff in full view and walking out, not even making an attempt to hide it. We want to know what other kind of resources will be diverted or have been diverted in terms of helping the local police precinct and EMS services to cope with the additional load. We've had, and you can see there's a picture up here, EMS responding. We've had at least one incident every day where somebody has had to respond. Now, there's not police reports for all of these, but there are run reports, I'm told. Again, I've requested these. Unfortunately, the city has not provided them to me as of yet. So I will be more than happy to share them next week if they get back to me.
You're gonna be waiting a couple months on this.
Say again?
Police public records are running a couple months.
Sure. We have, like I said, some of the responding officers and the they indicated that they were not aware. They're a little bit worried. They're going to be left out in the cold, so to say. And of course, the last one there, no area businesses or residents were given any kind of advance notice of the terminal. Despite the fact that they overwhelmingly opposed the site choice. Given the previous history with the old site, did the city not think it may be wise to at least have some sort of public notice, some sort of inquiry to solicit, the community, whether or not, they don't have to listen to us, right? But they at least probably deserve, the respect to us to have us tell them what we think before making such a huge change to the community. So I believe that's, oh no, I do have one more slide. We'll run through it. This is some related media coverage. There's stories on Columbus here about this location. I tried to list some dates. It's all quite recent for most of this stuff. Arlington Heights just went in November. It's a much more quiet section. There's not a ton out there aside from general dissatisfaction from the passengers of the bus not liking the fact that they're being dropped off on the city, suburbs as opposed to downtown where they were accustomed to. You'll see similar stories about the passengers here in Columbus if you take a moment to check some of these articles and news recordings out. Dayton, I already talked quite a bit, I think, about the Trotwood location, but there's some links to. You can see they moved into 2019. They've had issues in 21. They've had issues in 22. The common theme is that despite requests, the company has not done anything to remedy the situation. They seem perfectly happy just letting things progress as they are. And then Philadelphia is an interesting one because it opened the same day as our own. It's a little bit different set of circumstances. They did move out of their historic downtown terminal, but they actually occupied a storefront on the city curb. There's no restrooms. There's actually no internal location except for the ticket booth. Passengers are currently being told that they have to wait outside in the elements. There's no type of awning. There's no benches. Greyhound was asked, okay, what about, food and restrooms? And the response was, well, they can use the adjoining fast food and conveniently located food locations. And oh, by the way, there are bathrooms on our buses when they arrive. So that's all I have for you. I'd love to answer any questions if I can. And I don't know where I am on time, but again, thank you so much.
It's 8:14. We have 16 minutes left for our meeting today. So I want to be very clear about next week. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you very much. We have committee meetings. You look on the agenda, we have a pretty active committee structure where all the work gets done. And our zoning committee meets next Tuesday. That's what this date is. Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify, is it 6 or 7 p.m.?
That's what I'm going to say next, was that the official business of the zoning committee will start at 6 o'clock, right? You're welcome to be here. We have some applications that we're going to be reviewing. I think that we need an hour to do that. And then this issue, we would like to then say was, 7 o'clock, right? Is that, so that people aren't sitting there saying, oh, I showed up at 6, I'm waiting till 7. And so Rachel's the chair of the zoning committee. We said, let's do 7 o'clock. Does that make any questions about that? Want to make sure we have an opportunity to have a really comprehensive discussion. We haven't had a chance to talk since the end of last week. Zach and Don, but if there's anybody that we need to be inviting to this meeting, I don't know who else you're inviting. Anybody you invite would be welcome. Any city representatives. I personally have reached out to a representative of Buckeye Barron's bus. They said that they would get the owner to come to the meeting.
Right. I mean, anybody that we could get involved, whether it's ownership, whether it's Greyhound, whether it's city officials, somebody from zoning and traffic. I mean, everything that we have mentioned tonight.
I think that list of questions the list of questions in your presentation is really well scribed. And I think those give us an opportunity to think about who could help answer those questions, right? Yeah.
One potential issue, and we'll be held in this room.
Well, that's
We're pretty full on capacity already.
well, that's one of the things that I wanted to actually talk about. I could get ahead of the light, John left, I could see if we could expand another wall. Let me see, would you mind to see if maybe somebody might?
I know
Jenny.
from
No,
our own
I'll
meeting,
go.
we've had quite a few people that
I just wanna get it.
asked if we told them no, just because we figured it would probably, it's just a full point session.
Yeah, right.
All the commissioners won't be here, so it'll be more space.
Right. So all of this space will be available. We won't be doing this setup with this U and all of that. So yeah, all of this will be teared down. We'll probably just have a table, couple tables, none of these wigs. So we can share up this whole area. You think that'll be sufficient? And we'll also look into, there's 4 meeting rooms that can all be linked. So we'll look there. That's okay. All right, I really hate to not have questions or comments, but we kind of agreed that this was an informational presentation, and that, we can stay here till 9 o'clock afterwards, talk internally about.
I'm happy to stick around afterwards.
That's
if anybody
awesome.
Has any kind of questions for me?
That's perfect.
Babysitter could maybe work.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll grab my chair. We're gonna move on to the reports of officers, and I'm gonna take authority to hear and say, I don't think we have any tonight because we need to move on. So as chair, we'll have a treasurer's report next month. Those are, we're required to have those quarterly. We've had them, so we'll push that off till next meeting. And our secretary and vice chair, do you have anything for reports? No, perfect. Moving on to our zoning committee, Rachel is our chairperson. Any updates?
I.
Oh, the microphone.
There we go. So as we discussed, the zoning committee meeting will be next Tuesday, 7/18. It begins at 6 p.m. right here. We do have 3 applications, regular zoning applications, and then at 7, we'll start the discussion on the Greyhound bus location. The applications that we will be hearing are BZA 23-067, that's 2281 Sullivan Avenue. That is the Sunoco at Highland and Sullivan. They're asking for a variance in relation to their dumpster and the screening of the dumpster. I think it might be a little bit of a contentious application. I'm not sure if it's a little bit of a mess, but if you have any input on that application, feel free to come to the zoning committee meeting. There's also BZA 23-068, which is 363 Columbian Avenue. That is a variance for an existing shed and deck of a single family home. Just an individual homeowner who has a deck and a shed and wants a variance for the 0 setback. And then the third and final is BZA 23-072, which is 4577 Parkwick Drive. This is a vacant lot where the owner is wanting to build a new single family home. So those are the 3 applications we will hear. If you have any questions.
As to the meeting next week, John has left for the day, but they checked on the reservations for next week. That room is already reserved for a different group. So they won't be able to expand it to the other. rooms.
We talked about. Thank you for checking. This is awesome. That's awesome.
I think we should be okay.
Yeah.
That is all for me.
So on our community relations committee, we have co-chairs Kayla Davis and Josh Maddox. Do you have a report?
We did not have a meeting last week. We did have a table at Summer Jam West. That was very nice. And we will have a meeting this upcoming month on a date that is in August, or July sometime. The 25th. 6:30 p.m. to discuss next tables.
And where is that?
That will be at the Design Refinery in West Point.
Our government and legislation committee chairperson, right now.
We also did not meet in June. We will be meeting this July immediately following the community relations committee. So that'll be 7 p.m. on the 25th at the Design Refinery. Our main news, the petition to run for a seat on the area commission is live. So that's available on our website for download. You would need to collect 25 signatures in order to run and be 18 years or older and living in the greater Hilltop boundaries. Those are due at the end of August. All of those details are on the petition itself, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And there are 4 open seats as always, and then 1 will be appointed at the end of the year. We'll be discussing election locations at the July meeting. If you are planning to run, I would highly recommend you come to that meeting so you can learn what that process is going to look like. And as a reminder, last time we did decide that there will not be a August full commission meeting.
Yes, thank you. Do we have a report from a Human Services and Education Committee?
Just in lieu of time, no major updates right now, but the next meeting will be next Wednesday, July 19. And I don't know what the time is set. Is it 6:30?
I would at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. here at the library. Thank you. 6 p.m. here at the library.
Great. On to our liquor permit review committee. Our chairperson, Andrew Stryker. He needs the microphone because he has a little bit of business that he wanted to bring forward.
Thank you, Dan. I do have a quick presentation this evening. I know we are short on time, so I'm going to talk very quickly. Zach, were you able to come up here with us? I was just emailing back and forth with him in regards to liquor permits in case we have any questions. Or Zach, please also feel free to jump in and interrupt me and correct me on anything that I say. But I would normally put this off, but we do have a little bit of a time frame that we have to talk about. So just a little very quickly, liquor permits are issued by the state of Ohio. It is not the county or the city. In Franklin County, our permits are renewed every year on February 1st. The city, towards the end of the year, and Zach can speak more to this, but makes a determination of whether or not they're going to object any of the liquor permits. And that decision-making process is not set in stone, but it is roughly in September. And from what I was told from my conversation with the city attorney's office, that by the end of October 31st, they basically made their decisions on whether or not and who, what permits they're going to object to. Okay, next slide. So just as our purpose is basically is just to provide feedback for the city, for the greater Hilltop area in reference to liquor permits. The 2 things that we really do right now, to providing feedback whenever the city attorney's office reaches out to us with questions on when we're having changes to existing liquor permits, and they'll send us an email and say, hey, do you have any feedback about these locations? And then also to provide any feedback that we have about locations, again, in approximately this time of year, so that if the city attorney's office is assembling any kind of cases, or is not aware of any information, that they were able to provide that to them. Currently we are planning, and I did discuss with Josh here, our tech guru, getting together at some point to see if we could put onto the website a list of all of the permits that we have in the greater Hilltop area. That would be actually pretty simple to do. We're not too sure about yet, is I would like to put some kind of tool or a form that would enable people to send an email or make some kind of complaint about a liquor permit, so that if we do receive that, we can send that to the city. At the moment, I am the current chair of the liquor permitting committee. I will receive periodic emails from the city attorney's office regarding liquor permit change requests. They're, changing owners or changing names or something to that effect. And generally speaking, we're getting a very short deadline to respond to those. I would have to look and see exactly what the dates were, but for example, I was like, I get an email on a Thursday and they need a response by Monday or Tuesday. The issue with that is that we, and again, this isn't specifically in our bylaws, and I know we've just in the past just asked our fellow commissioners what we would, if we have any feedback. However, just given like public meeting requirements, like we really can't do a whole lot of communicating back and forth by email. for me personally, I don't feel comfortable, answering emails on behalf of the entire commission. And so, I would like to request, if you look on my next page here, this was a process that I would like to propose, that I would like the commission to vote and approve. Which is that if I, the current chair, or any future chair receives these requests from the city, that we can respond in a timely manner. I would receive the email. I will solicit feedback from my fellow commissioners. I'll send the email out to my fellow commissioners. We can send an email out using our email list, using our social media, and solicit any feedback using that proposed tool where someone can just send a message and say, I have feedback about a particular location. And then just in that couple of days, I would give it a couple of days, wait until the deadline that they're looking for, and respond and say, currently, this is all the, these are all the, this is all the feedback I received. So if there was no feedback submitted about a particular location using that tool, we would not provide any feedback. If in that time frame we had, 20 emails about it, then I would provide that to the city. So that's basically the process. It's not too complicated, but again, I don't want to, presume to speak on behalf of the whole commission when I'm responding to these requests. If I haven't, if we don't typically aren't having the time for our liquor permit committee to meet the following month, for us to come to a decision, and then wait for the following month's full commission meeting to vote on something. So this was kind of my proposed solution to that. I am certainly open to any feedback. Zach, would you like to correct anything I said, or if
You were spot on.
okay? So, thank you. Does anybody have any questions, or like would want to make any changes to that procedure?
I have a quick question. So would this essentially eliminate any sort of votes, yes or no, from the commission, or?
That's correct.
Okay.
Basically, I would just be, my answer to the city would be whatever feedback has already been submitted in whatever online tool we have.
Can I clarify a couple of things?
Please.
You said earlier in the slides, you're going through them quickly. All liquor permits in Franklin County renew on February 1st. We don't have the ability as the commission to vote down or up a permit, right? I mean, that's
correct.
We don't have, I'm just kind of saying, we don't have the ability to do that. What we're looking for is feedback throughout the year about any transfers, any new permits that might come our way. Does the community have any feedback about that? We don't get to officially vote the permit up or down, right? That isn't within our jurisdiction to do. Just kind of talking with everybody about that. But we're asked to be representatives of the area when this permit will be, right? And so this feedback process is what we're trying to help define, right?
And to be clear too, the city does not vote up or down, whether or not these permits get approved. These are through the state. And if there is a significant issue that is brought to their attention, they have a process that they go through to object to that liquor permit. But it is a lengthy, time-consuming process, which is why they're looking for feedback. When I had a discussion with them recently with Zach and someone else in the city attorney's office, they said that they would like any kind of that feedback like that by September. That way they have time to collect that, look at that, and decide by the end of October. And then they have from October until February. That's the kind of time frame we're looking at. So again, they're not approving or denying these requests, but if there is a significant public safety, concern, if there is, that there are, if they can make a significant case to oppose the liquor permit, then they can do so. But also, to be, frank about it, and just straightforward, it's not likely that if someone is having an issue with United Dairy Farmers down the road here, that they're going to, lose their liquor permit. The city does want to know those things. Am I still on?
They shut it off. They're making that
okay.
announcement, so you can't hear it.
Oh, okay. The city does want to know our feedback about these locations because, they can connect us with other resources like, public safety or code enforcement or, other city departments to address the issues that we're having, but it's not likely that, we're going to start pulling, liquor permits left and right. But at least this is our opportunity, would be the opportunity to provide feedback, to make sure that the city is aware of any issues that we're having.
So, our office will submit liquor objection, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I think you're gonna say the same thing.
City is only really capable of submitting so many objections to liquor permits that come through every year. And so Sarah Pomeroy, who's in our shop, looks at also service ratios, felony offenses of violence, any liquor inspections that they might have failed, and says, okay, these are the ones we're gonna file objections on. So she emails me every time that liquor permits come up throughout the year and says, hey, is there anything we're missing? So that's why I sent it over to the area division to say, is there anything that's not showing up in the data, where maybe a neighbor or somebody knows that there's a problem, but police aren't being called or something else is happening, just so stuff isn't slipping through the cracks and we at least have it on our radar.
What's up? I just want to be clear, right? So the purpose of this is simply feedback.
Correct.
Right, to get feedback. That's it for the commission, and we want to make sure that the public knows, our residents know that this is coming up and if you have an issue.
Correct.
So this process is just to capture all that so that we can forward it.
Correct, because I can send out an email to all of the commissioners.
Right.
But that does, and even though we're here to represent members of the community, we can't necessarily in every circumstance speak
Right.
for them. So hey, does anybody have any objections to the UDF here on the corner? Well, I have no idea. I don't live near here. So.
Yeah, so simply it's just to get feedback. I just want to make sure that we're
Yes.
understanding that.
All I'm
And
gonna.
and
all
for
the
us to
purpose-
answer when you send the email.
Right.
Exactly.
Is
Okay.
all we're giving the permission to do is if they are asking for the commission's opinion, that I will say, well, the commission's opinion, or the commission's feedback is, here is everything that we were told, using whatever tool we end up using. Here's everything we were told.
Right.
And that would be our.
So I'm gonna take some privilege here. I think that, I don't know, that'd be like chair privilege or something. I don't know. It's a thing.
It is a thing.
It's a thing, right?
It's a thing.
So thank you for the presentation. I was really excited for us to talk about this tonight. I'm going to make a decision that the presentation is going to stand as it is, and we're going to put this as an item on the next full commission meeting. That may not be in line with maybe what, with the schedule of what may be objections to permit renewals. But I think you've really teed us up for a really good conversation. I think that what's really important, and we have a lot more people here tonight, is that we create avenues to be able to get feedback about, we don't want to shut down any establishment that's, whatever. I mean, that's not the purpose of this, but where there are problems, that there's an avenue to bring that feedback forward so we can get to the right people, right?
Yes, and you said that much better than I did. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna go ahead and, not ask for a vote tonight. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna say that we'll put this on as old business in our future meeting, give us the opportunity to talk about it. I also would like for our community relations team to post something on our avenues, outlets about, we're looking for feedback on how to solicit information about liquor permits in your area, and we'll be hosting this conversation at the next fall commission meeting.
If worse comes to worse, and I can't get with Josh to figure out, I'll just create an email address and say, just please send everything. I will personally compile it all from that, if those emails, that's worse comes to worse. So that way, we can, at least for this year, provide feedback in time to the city.
Yes.
And we know August full commission, we're looking at.
We are looking at September. Yeah. All right, and I think that ideally Sarah or the city would like to kind of have things buttoned up typically around October or so. Okay, all right. Great. Thank you, Zach. I know, Zach, you had a really quick announcement. I'm gonna squeeze in between committee. Do you mind?
We did have an abatement today for a drug house on 451 Josephine. Overdose deaths, a lot of different shots fired. Kind of thing. Disturbances, stolen vehicles, wanted persons. So that was executed today. Will be closed down for the foreseeable future. And then I don't know, Leah, did you want to do soft?
I know.
You're good. Okay. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you, Zach. Moving on to planning and economic development, co-chair Simon Dallas and Victoria Klein is with us, but Simon.
Yes, so we did meet this past month. We had the Division of Traffic Management come and talk to us about they finished up the city study on West Mound, where they're going to be resurfacing and repaving or restriping the street and adding a road dye. The big note of that is they are going to be finalizing plans by August and then coming back to the full commission to present after they finalize plans. Our next meeting is July 27th at 5:30 PM here at the library.
Thank you for your report. Public safety, co-chairpersons, Ivana and Malik.
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, so we did meet last month and we just talked about some of the little things that we need to complete. One is the Hilltop resident kit. We sent out the rough draft and hoping you guys would review it, provide feedback. And then I don't need a mic. I can be loud. The other thing is, Kayla, you've had a few action items. So you can do a status.
Yeah, so maybe.
Just yell.
Hello.
Just yell. Go ahead.
Just kidding. So, one of the things that I'm doing with the Public Safety Committee while I'm in it, but also through our nonprofit, is working with the Department of Neighborhoods to come up with kind of like a kind of block party to kind of bring the community in certain block areas that are high volume in crime. Just like resources like the greenery space to kind of bring a couple blocks together to offer various resources. So I'm working on that to have a projection of the fall on having a couple blocks that we've already identified, like Burgess and Terrace to kind of start out. And then based off the feedback from the community and the previous surveys that we've already done, we would kind of move directly into a couple more blocks and just inviting those individuals in that block to just build a sense of community through our nonprofit, along with the public safety and the Department of Neighborhoods. Am I missing something else that I forgot? I think that's pretty much it. So if anybody's interested in being a part of that planning, please join us for the Public Safety Committee, or you can also reach out to me directly as I begin to kind of process this and figure out what this may look like for the community.
Thank you. Thank you for your report.
And I know James is not here, but just give one.
Yeah, if you could do it, okay, we're on Rex and Park.
We walked through Big Run earlier in July. And he has the full report, so I won't speak to that. Since he's not here, I do not know if he plans to meet on a Saturday. So if I can get in touch with him before that, I'll let you on.
James, the chairperson, has actually been conducting park audits. We've been walking through and kind of looking at amenities, what shape things are in. So he will produce a kind of report on the walk through Big Run. And then we'll figure out, did you get a chance to show our calendar to everybody?
I would love to.
Would you love to?
Yeah.
We have people that haven't attended our meetings before. So while I'm going to talk about the next couple of items to finish up our night tonight, our unfinished business, we have $2,500 that we're given each year to be able to fund certain things that we do. And none of us are paid by any means, but do we have any advertising costs? Do we have any supplies, any kind of program expenses? And so we met, every chairperson of every committee, almost everybody here, the chair of the committee, met for finance committee, but we never officially brought it to the full commission for a vote. So I passed out the page that we submitted with our memorandum of understanding to the city that says this is how we plan to spend the $2,500 in these buckets. So we would spend for space cost and rentals, $450, administrative and special projects, $200, consumable supplies, $836, miscellaneous expenses, $1,014, totaling $2,500. So, oh yeah, that's up there. Good. I didn't have to read that to everybody. So we went in depth and had discussions about what all of this means and how much is kind of going to be devoted to each committee. And so I need to put for a motion with OLBC being here. Has this full commission approved the submission of this budget with the memorandum of understanding? Once we approve this, it'll be ready to be fully submitted. We've not received program funds for this year. It's waiting on this to happen. So I'm going to put a motion that we approve our budget to be submitted with the memorandum of understanding the way it looks on the screen today. Jenny Kepler seconded it. So I think that we probably should do a voice vote. Let's do a voice vote, George, or you're ready. Amina.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Going around each person. What do you think? What do you think?
Okay.
Rusty.
The motion is for the approval of the budget as submitted to the city with a memorandum of understanding.
Yes, that we can submit it the way it looks right up on the screen.
Okay, Chair Fagan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bishop,
Yes.
to our treasurer. Maxman?
Yes.
Secretary is a yes. Wait,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
yeah.
Heck, yes.
Yes. Conway?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Josh. And yes, and. Thank you. So what is that? 13. Again. You know, present.
Yep, okay, so that passes. We have a majority vote here that budget will be submitted the way it's approved. So the way it looks. So as you can tell, our secretary works really, really hard throughout this meeting to be able to capture all this discussion, to be able to do this. Ian and I've already talked about, we're gonna have to probably table what's a new business. We just talked about the submission of this budget, but is there an opportunity? Some of the other area commissions, I understand, have used some of their program funds to just hire somebody to do scribing, minute taking, record keeping at these meetings. Send all those, collect all those notes, send them to everybody, and then we use those as our, once approved, our official minutes. I know that you had a comment to make about it. Is it appropriate to do that now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I did ask, just how the Westland Area Commission, because they've used this process for years for their note taking. So I did ask and I also checked with city leadership. So there is no official process that you need to go through in order to contract with somebody to take minutes. Like, you don't have to bid it out. There's no requirement, like you can't pay any more than X or Y amount of minimum as well. You can go about it any way you please in terms of recruiting someone. There is no official process for that. I did ask whether that person would be available to take notes during this meeting as well, just to offer up an option. But unfortunately, she doesn't have availability during your meetings as they're scheduled now. Yeah, I do have the rate that person charges per meeting. I might share that after the meeting.
Yeah, send that to us.
I'll
Yeah.
send that on, but yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. More than happy, if you guys can put any type of just paragraph together for me that you're soliciting. If you decide to move forward with that option, happy to share that in the bulletin and any other means that you guys would like to recruit.
When we had a previous discussion a couple of years ago about this, I created a job description, forwarded that to Joe. He has that, so we can send that around, just give everybody an idea of what the position would look like, timelines, responsibility. There wasn't an assigned pay rate that we kind of came up with as a recommendation. You know, I'm not saying, hey, let's do this. I'm just saying, we've got a job description and yeah, and we had a projected amount when we were discussing this before, so you've got all that information.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and move that to old business for our next full commission meeting. So you'll be receiving some emails about that with job descriptions, et cetera, attached.
We
So
can add suggestions and things to that as well.
you can. Why don't we, I'm always giving stuff to committees. Government legislation, do you think this is something that you could just compile any kind of feedback from commissioners about this?
You can say no.
I can.
Yeah, and I can just help.
Trying to see how that would fit into our.
I mean, I feel like it's around governance, right? It's around like governance and how we operate, so bylaws and stuff, yeah. And then we do the best thing.
I can work with you too.
Yeah, and I'll dot it
Yeah.
line too.
All right, so we're at 8:30 on the agenda where I'm not gonna make a motion to adjourn this meeting today. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Got it.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man.
because it's. You know, it is definitely. I know, but.